Alright, so today on What Makes a Bad Deck, we're going to talk about Kaervek the Merciless. Kaervek is one of my oldest decks, one of the ones I've had for years. You can tell by the sleeve, I'm not sure if you're picking up all the dirt and scratches, but he's been with me for a long time. I really like the deck, but it's not a good deck on the surface. Let me go through the changes I've made recently, and then I'll get to more about him and why I say that he's not the best deck. So the first thing is Blasphemous Act is coming out. The reason is because a few months ago, over the course of the summer, I got Phyrexian Obliterator foil. I've been wanting one for a long time, and finally I was doing a deal with this lad, and he had one in his trade binder, so I bought it. And he doesn't, since I wanted it so badly for so long, I had to put it in the deck. Phyrexian Obliterator does not fit in any of my other decks as black. Shroom, because he's not an artifact creature or does anything with artifacts. Edgar and Karthus, because he's not a vampire or elf respectively, so he can't go in there. Muldrotha does not need him. Sig and Phoenix, he feels like he'd be forced. Feels like the wrong inclusion, but Kaervek, because he's essentially a stack of black cards, red cards, black-red cards, artifacts, and lands, with not much of a theme from looking at the deck. Obliterator went into Kaervek. And then I was looking over the deck, and I realized I left in Blasphemous Act, which is not a good idea. So if I cast the Blasphemous Act, because I'm dealing 13 damage to the Obliterator, and I'm the damage's controller, I have to sacrifice 13 permanents, and I don't want to do that. So Blasphemous Act is coming out. Damnation is going in. And then I only have 37 lands in the deck. Wanted to put in 38, but decided to experiment by just taking out Rakdos Canarium. Comes into play tap. Yeah, I can bounce a land. I can execute the fabled play of bouncing Bojukabog. Yeah, Bojukabog back to my hand. But I have never actually been able to do that in all the years I've been playing. It just doesn't happen. And also it comes into play tapped. So taking a Rakdos Canarium, putting in a command tower. It's a free dual land. I know a lot of people don't like to run command towers in their bicolor decks, but should be okay in Kaervek. Hell's Caretaker. This has been in the deck since I built the deck. It has always had a Hell's Caretaker. The problem with the Caretaker now is it's too slow. So I telegraph it 4 mana for 1/1 that I can only activate during my upkeep to move a creature from play, put it in the graveyard. Creature from graveyard comes into play because you might leave your Chandra should another take your place. So that gives, if I'm playing against 2 other lads, that gives each one a full turn to do something about Hell's Caretaker, or look at my graveyard and do something about what I have in my graveyard. So it's just too slow. I am going to keep it because I like it. I like it a lot. It's signed. She's one of the harder people to find a signed card by. So it's going to a place of honor in my binders full of art cards, cards that aren't in an EDH deck for a reason. Some examples in my art binder of cards like that are, so there's Northstar, Turn Academy, Scalding Tarn. Northstar, it's obsolete. It's, to use the phrase, unplayable. In fact, I can't think of any case where I wouldn't rather have a Chromatic Lantern than a Northstar. Turn Academy, it's banned in Commander. It doesn't have a place in my vintage decks, but I like it, so I have it. In Scalding Tarn, when I took apart Joyra, I did not have another red-blue deck. Don't have one planned. So those are 3 examples of what's in my art and pending EDH card binders. So Hell's Caretaker will join them in the black section. And speaking of Chromatic Lantern, that's what I'm replacing Hell's Caretaker with. So the deck has a lot of lands that produce colorless mana, a lot of non-basics. And I need more reliable ways of getting the red and the black that it requires. So Chromatic Lantern is going in. And I'm surprised how cheap this version is. I think it's only €2. Also, taking out Grey Merchant Asphodel. He still works in the deck. If something else shows that it's not working as well as I want it to, he will go back and replace it. This is not a definitive exclusion, but I do have the dragon from Kamigawa. Kokusho. I have Kokusho the Evening Star, and she's a bit more reliable. I have a lot of ways of getting my creatures killed. I have Goblin Bombardment, I have High Market, I have Phyrexian Tower. So, because Kokusho triggers on dying, and he triggers on coming into play, Kokusho is a bit reliable about activating the effect. So he's coming out for the time being, kind of. In his place is Darksteel Plate, which I should have put in a long time ago, because for some reason people like getting like killing Kaervek. They don't like it that whenever they play a spell I get to deal damage. I don't know why. It's fun for me. Which is excuse me, as an aside. So a friend of mine, he built a Kaervek deck. And it's the exact opposite of mine. His Kaervek deck, Kaervek was a puppet commander. He just, if he could play him, he would, but he didn't care if he never played Kaervek or not. His deck was about screwing with the game state. He had Endless Whispers, he had Nether Void, Chains of Mephistopheles, all these griefer cards, and all he wanted to do was make everybody hate playing the game with him. And Kaervek was just the commander he chose. So let's talk a bit about the deck. Why is it a bad deck? So it's got bad cards in it. Carekeep, not really considered a great card. It's in here because I can make a token on demand. With Perforos out, every time I make a token on demand, it's 2 damage. I can make a blocker. I can make something later sacrifice to Phyrexian Tower, to Helm of Possession to take control of somebody's creature. So that's in there. Dualcaster Mage, I've never used him. Ever. But I'm afraid of taking him out because the day I do use him, the day he does become relevant when I can copy an instant or sorcery spell, it's going to be epic. So I keep him in for the promise of an epic play more than anything he's actually done. Army of the Damned, 8 3/2/2 13/2/2 black zombie creatures tapped. With Perforos, that's 26 points of damage. And again, I flashback it for 10 for another 26 points of damage. Rakdos Signet, I need to put an Arcane Signet to deck. I don't know what to take out. I don't have an extra Arcane Signet at this time anyway. But the deck has a lot of artifacts in order to pump out Kaervek, Nykthos, land that produces colorless mana. Again, a good reason for having the Chromatic Lantern, so I can filter for black or red as needed. 2 tap, choose color, you get mana equal to your devotion to the color. Usually I choose black because that's the most I have. Talisman of Indulgence, so I can get 1 colorless, or I take a point of damage to get black or red. Soul Ring, everybody knows Soul Ring. This is a relatively new inclusion in the deck I've made over the last couple years, because I realized that I need a way of gaining life, and this does a trick. Whenever I deal damage to an opponent, especially funny if it's casting their spell, I get that much life. Dragon Skull Summit, just a red-black dual land, for lack of a better term. Ancient Tomb hurts me, but gives me 2 colorless mana to turn 1, pump out a talisman, a signet, something like that. Gets me to Kaervek faster. Goblin Sharpshooter. He is best paired with Basilisk Collar. With Basilisk Collar, every time I tap him to do a point of damage, he will kill the creature if I'm tapping it to damage to a creature. And so he'll untap. So he can really act like a Gatling gun. Snow-covered lands. All the basics in here are snow-covered because up until about 2 years ago, I used to have Stalking Yeti. Stalking Yeti is 2 red, 2 colors for a 3/3 when it comes into play. And it says if it is in play, which is just weird to me. So if it comes into play, it basically fights another creature. And you can spend 2 snow mana to bounce it back to your hand to do it again. He wasn't really working that well, only dealing 3 damage at the time. I didn't have the gratuitous violence in here yet, so I took him out. And I kept the snow-covered lands in for laziness reasons, legacy reasons. I like looking at them. But then I've got a card later that uses snow-covered lands, so it worked out. Vorath Stronghold. Again, another land that produces colorless. Quite a lot of them in the deck, as I said. 1 and a black, tap. Put a creature from graveyard on top of your library. And this is so cheap now. My god, I mean, a year ago it was around 100 euros. Now it's down to 40 or 50. You can get ones reliably for 50 euros, which is a hell of a thing. And it's reserve list. So if you don't have one of these in your black deck, I recommend taking a look, picking one up. Phyrexian Purge, 2 black-red sorcery. Pay 3 life per target, destroy any number of target creatures. If I've got a lot of life, I can kill a lot of creatures. The mountain. Sword of Light and Chateau. So the creature equipped gets +2/+2. Excuse me. When the creature connects with the player, you get to erase dead and gain 3 life. And it gets a protection from black and white. Mainly it's in here because of the raise dead. My creatures die a lot in this deck, mainly due to my own devices. So I'd like a way to get them back, to reuse them again. And here's the snow-covered swamp. I'm not sure if you're picking up the... I tried to show it in Kaervek, the dirt and scratches in the sleeves. This, like I said, it's one of my oldest decks. So Mikaesian Hollowed. 3 triple black for a 5/5 zombie cleric. Intimidate. Whenever a human deals damage to you, destroy it. That's never happened. Never been relevant. But other non-human creatures you control get +1/+1 and have undying. That has been relevant. Many times. Swamp. Withered Wretch. So, in addition to Bochuka Bog, I've got this in here to deal with other people's graveyards. Black for a 2/2 zombie cleric. Spend 1, remove target card in graveyard from the game. Mountain. Hammerheim. It's not as relevant these days as it was when I first started playing with Kaervek, but I can remove landwalking ability. Typically it's Swamp Walk. Most people that I've played against have creatures of Swamp Walk. Randomly. Not common, but it's nice to be able to just as randomly take it away and block whatever they're attacking me with. Swamp. Here's the dynamic duo. Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. All lands are swamps. Cabal Coffers. Spend 2, tap, add 1 black for every swamp you control. Now keep in mind, Cabal Coffers not only give you a lot of mana, but also can filter the mana. Let's say you have Cabal Coffers and 2 lands that produce colorless and 2 swamps. You can tap those lands that produce colorless, tap the Cabal Coffers, you get 2 black out of the coffers, and you tap the 2 swamps, and now you have 4 black. Where before, on the surface, you only had 2 black. So that's a trick that I can use to get out the Phyrexian Obliterator. more reliably. Snow-Covered Mountain. My only copy of Grim Monolith, and it's a gentleman, and it's signed. So tap, add 3 colorless mana pool. It doesn't untap during upkeep. You have to spend 4 mana to untap it, or you just use Voltaic Key. I prefer to use the key. 1 tap, untap target artifact. Lightning Greaves. Mainly in here to protect Kaervek. Occasionally it's here to give some big baddie haste, so he can attack the turn he comes into play. Like this Grave Titan, 6/6. I'm kind of annoyed he's not a zombie himself. It doesn't feel right, but it is what it is. Anyway, he's got Death Touch, and whenever he attacks or enters battlefield, I get 2/2 black zombie creatures. Imperial Recruiter. 2 in a red for a 1/1. When he enters the battlefield, search your library for a Kiki-Jiki. Show everybody you have Kiki-Jiki, put in your hand, then shuffle. Swamp. Or Dockside Extortionist. When he enters the battlefield, you can also, if you want to, if you need him, go find Dockside Extortionist, and then show it to everybody. Swamp. Gravecrawler. He can't block. He's kind of weak. But I can keep throwing him out there as long as I have a zombie. So I can keep recurring him to use him with Helm of Possession, Goblin Bombardment, what have you. Sacrifice effects. Massacre Wurm. If you've been paying attention, you're seeing I have a lot of mana restrictions. 3 black. Mikaeus is 3 black. Got a lot of 2 black. I got a few 3 red. I've got a lot of 2 red. So that's another reason for the Chromatic Lantern, because I've got a lot of lands that were just colorless, as I said. And this is why this is not a good deck. As you've been watching it, I don't have a coherent theme. I've got a light zombie theme. As I get to the next deck, you'll probably start seeing the light token theme from Goblins. And it's just a lot of fun black cards, fun red cards, fun black or red cards, fun artifacts. But it doesn't have a theme, and that's why I say it's a bad deck, because it's not really coherent. Command Beacon. Sacrifice Command Beacon. Put Kaervek back in your hand for the command zone, so you don't have to pay any commander tax. Shattering Pulse. 5. Blow up an artifact. Put this back in your hand to do it again. Bloodstained Mire. Deutsch. And there's Goblin Sharpshooter's little friend. 1. Equip 2. Creature has Death Touch and Lifelink. Equip the Goblin Sharpshooter and go to town. Tack, 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 tack. They all die. Graven Carns. This is the art that best fits Kaervek. It looks brutal and harsh, just like he does. So red or black, tap to add 2 black, 2 red, or black and a red. Filter land. Terror of the Peaks. Okay, I bought this guy as soon as I saw him. As soon as I saw that he'd been spoiled. And I bought this version. And at the time I thought, wow, 35 euros. That's a lot. Well, now he's up to close to 100 euros. So I thought, wow, he's getting reprinted soon. So I put him up for sale in Magic Card Market for 100 euros on the off chance I get a buyer. Because even though it's really nice to have the full art for half the price, for 50 euros, I can get a normal frame foil Terror of the Peaks plus something else. Maybe another Terror of the Peaks. I doubt anybody's going to buy him for 100 euros, but I'll see. Anyway, 5 for 5/4. Spells your opponents cast target him, costs additional 3 life. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, he deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. Huh. I cast Army of the Damned. I get 13 2/2 black zombie tokens. That's 13 shocks that I get to do. That's why he's in here. Stingscourger. This surprises people. Some people don't even believe he's a real card. Like, what the hell? Red can bounce? Yes, red can bounce. 1 in a red, 2 Goblin Warrior. It comes to play. Return target creature an opponent controls to his hand. This guy has saved my bacon a lot of times. He's well worth his weight in cardboard when it comes to effectiveness in the deck. In the Echo, I don't care. So I cast him, bounce something, equip him with a Skull Clamp during upkeep. I don't play the Echo. I get 2 cards because he dies, and I use one of my many effects of getting something back out of the graveyard to bring it back into play and do it again. There's the Obliterator. Alright, that's 20 minutes in. Let's go to part 2.